Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. This is the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. I've got a friend of a friend, Cheryl Hunter, of Cheryl Hunter Group. Is that correct?
The Hunter Group, yeah.
The Hunter Group. Damn it, I had the right words.
Damn it, we were so close.
I was close. I met you through a brother of mine who met you through an intern on social media, right? That's what we sorted out? Yep. Okay. So you are a...
like this cool turn of events.
You're based where now, by the way? I never figured that out. You're in California?
Los Angeles, yeah.
Okay, so you're in the heart of all of that stuff, or I'm the opposite.
All of that stuff.
All of that stuff.
Does it all.
Well, for a gun rights advocate, you're in the heart of all the things that I'm not. Besides, like, good weather.
It's good weather. I'm a ranch raised Colorado gal. Grew up shooting guns myself. So okay.
We're in Colorado.
A little mountain town, very little mountain town between Rye, San Isabel, and Beulah.
Oh, sure.
Try that one on for size. People are all, even Coloradans are like, where?
I had an older sister that lived in Leadville for a number of years.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. Yeah.
Now I have one in Arvada, the suburb down there.
Okay, Denver. Yeah. I mean, Denver.
It is. Yeah. It's just Denver. Yeah. It's like I tell people Chicago, we're a suburb of Chicago. So not to mention, I don't want creeps to know what town I live in. So
yeah. Close enough. Yes.
So your company, the Hunter Group, correct? I don't want to say it wrong again. All right. You guys do what? You do all kinds of stuff, or you personally do?
Yeah. Coaching. I know it's hard to believe it, but I've been a coach for like 20 years, and it's traditionally been like executive coaching, and I did that for a long time. But I've realized over the past few years, I really wanted to work more with individuals. So there's been two things I've done all along. One is working to help people perform their best, but really, I've also simultaneously worked to counsel and coach victims of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And
which is why we are talking today. I want to talk about both, but that's a big one. So you started with the finding excellence, but now you are doing the trauma as well.
Well, frankly, I started with the whole business to save my own life.
Okay. Tell me that. That's interesting.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm a cowgirl from Colorado, and it was, just grew up in the middle of absolutely the most beautiful country ever, where you couldn't even see civilization. Like if you looked out from the high mountain meadow of our ranch, it could have been, 1840. You'd never know. Sure. It was, other than our barn, or you'd see a truck that was modern. It's no civilization there, which was fantastic as a kid. Is your family still out there? Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And still have the horse ranch. Still, it's so great. It's like a trip back in time in a lot of ways, And yet, as a teenager, I just I felt so stifled. I wanted to go to cities. I would see movies or TV on occasion, and I wanted to go these places. I wanted to talk to people. I wanted to have social interaction with somebody other than my brother and sister.
How many people in your high school?
Oh, there was a couple hundred cumulatively from K through 12. Okay.
Well, there was 3 in my graduating high school class.
No kidding. Oh my God. There were probably 18 in ours. Yeah.
Okay. So still, okay. All right. So we understand each other.
Holy mackerel. Okay. Yeah. I'll show up.
No sense in reunions. We just text each other.
You guys doing good? Yep. Got a group text.
Exactly. Exactly. So beautiful, middle of nowhere, central Colorado.
Got out and talked to my best friend into getting out. I was like, let's go someplace. I played hooky one day from school, got a Glamour magazine for career advice. And it was like, hey,
I did the same thing. I didn't.
That was some funny shit right there. So I got a Glamour magazine. It was like, oh, I could be a model. I was trying to figure out a way to get out of near Rye, Colorado, the suburbs of Rye. And I thought, that's it. I just have to go someplace that need models. Europe. That's like super cosmopolitan. I talked my friend into doing that. We both got jobs and, doing all kinds of dopey stuff and saved our money, and the big day came, and that was it. Yay.
How old were you?
And I'm 18.
Okay.
And we get to France, and no sooner did we get there than literally a man with a camera around his neck walked up and said, "Are you a model? I can make you one. Just come with me and my friend over there." This big guy leaning up against the wall. And my friend says, "Oh, no way. Those guys give me the creeps." But she wanted to go back home. She wanted a vacation, and then that was that. And I thought, I did the only rational thing. I ditched her,
Oh, God.
Hindsight is 20/20, right? A kid who
was this like a decent neighborhood? Were you?
Yeah. I mean, what do you know from a decent neighborhood traveling? Sure. You know what I mean? You don't really know. But it was like nice, seemingly nice shops and restaurants. Hell, I don't know.
Sure. You're a kid.
There was places around. We were, it was going to be my birthday. My friend was going to, we were poor as all get out, but she was going to take me out to dinner for my birthday, a sandwich, and like that. But she did what she was going to do. I ditched her, and it's, it doesn't take much to figure out that they were not photographers. They were criminals. And I've told the story before, not for a lot. I mean, for years I didn't talk to anybody, but I've told the story before, and I was just thinking of something I literally have never said before, which is I kept thinking the whole time that we were still going to take the photos. I mean, that's how naive I was.
Oh, gosh.
They asked me if I wanted a drink, a glass of Sauvignon Blanc of all things. And I was like, no, because thinking, I don't want to, I want, we're going to take photos and whatever. I just want to, I'll no. And they said something about, you American, and don't be a stupid American or something. And I was like, okay, I'll have some wine. Boom. That was that. They drugged me. That was that. It was the last thing I remember was my head was hanging out the window of a car, and they took me to an abandoned construction site. And you can, fill in the gory details with your own mind, but.
So you're 18 years old, two random strangers with cameras toss you into a car after convincing you that they're going to make you a model and film you. They've now got you on a construction site where you're drugged in Paris. I'm just making sure they're tracking.
Okay. France. Yeah.
France. Okay. So then what?
So then, I mean, like I said, you can fill in a lot of the gory details on your own, but they first started just by beating the crap out of me. I've run it through my head so many times. I still can't, why? Just sadistic. I don't know.
So it wasn't even that you were combative. They just were beating you up.
No, my God, combative. I kept saying, when are we taking the photos? I mean, I was so naive and so young. When are we going to take the photos? Are we going to do the photos here? Oh, God. Anyway, the really crazy thing is they I don't know why they let me live. I mean, I'd seen their faces. I've speculated for years. I had a cousin, my mom's cousin is a sergeant and police sergeant. And he's like, sounds like a sex trafficking handoff gone wrong or something. I mean, I've speculated forever, but they finally dropped me off, pushed me out of a car, dumped me in a park in Nice 3 days later. And as they did, the guy says, "Darling." And I look up and he takes my photo.
Oh my God. So somewhere out in the world is some creepy old bastard with a photo of you.
Right.
One of the things I remember when I listened to the TED Talk that you did on it was you talked about being in this moment and you glimpsed a flash of light dancing on a wall in the building that you were in. And you kind of used that as a focal point to take your mind away from where you were in that moment of time.
Yeah. I mean, for each of us, we face these circumstances that will, blindside us and we have no idea how to cope. For me, at that time, I'm lying there in this totally dark room, cement floor in my own urine. Sorry to be
You can
graphic,
say whatever
but
you
it's
want.
like, I'm lying there like
How many days did they had you for 3 days?
3. Yeah, I'm sure I'm dead and this is it. And, like that, but there's somehow in this midst of this darkness, there was this shimmering little speck of light sparkling on the wall that would appear and go away. And I became fascinated by it. I thought, whatever is making that light, that reflection is free, whatever it is. And if I stare at it hard enough, I'm going to just merge into it. Like, I'm not the girl lying here on the cement floor with this demon on top of her. I'm just this shimmering little speck of light that can fly away any moment that I choose. And I just stared at it. I craned my head as hard as I could in the other direction and just stared at that. And that's all I focused on the whole time until suddenly it's time to go, it's time to go.
When you said that and I heard that in the TED Talk, I thought about like the fact that you said it was not until later, if memory serves, that you actually like thought about what we just talked about. It wasn't something that you just took away like that memory. You thought about it later, correct?
You mean the thought about the spark of light, you mean?
The sparkle of light. Like when I heard you give the TED Talk, it sounded like it was something that in the moment it maybe wasn't a big deal, but later you thought about how it was such a big deal in the moment. Does that make sense? I realized later on that, I wanted to become that light, and really I did become that light in a way, but once I left there, I was faced with now really having to survive. Once I was free, I felt more captive than ever. I had no idea how to cope. Like, what do you do when you've had something like this happen? And so I was that light, but I just shoved it way down deep inside of me. Like, I became such a loner. I became so aloof. I became so walled off from people. You didn't tell anybody. You didn't go to.
I decided, the way I was going to handle it was never tell anybody. You see, they dropped me and then drove off, and I was just kind of like looking around, like, is this for real? And I realized at a certain point it was, and I got up, and I looked like death warmed over. I was bruised the hell over. They cut my hair off.
Oh my God.
It was like, I can't imagine what I looked like, some drug addict. I can't, I know, but I can't imagine what I looked like to other people. But I went to call my mom. And it was those days where you can't make a phone call on your own. It's not like there was cell phones or anything. Sure. You have to go to an Amex or a post office, and they dial it for you. And so I get them to dial the phone for me. And my mom picks up, and it's like the middle of the night in Colorado. And I just said, I'm okay. I'm okay. And she says, honey, like, imagine getting that call.
Had you been checking in frequently from time to time? Okay.
Yes. And I still to this day talk to my mom every day. We didn't talk every day on that trip, but often, and I'm just saying, I'm okay. And I literally can't say anything else. I can't get any other words out. I decided the only way I was going to live was to never tell a soul. That was the best I could come up with at 18. It was like, I'm I can't relive it. I can't talk about it. And if I do, they'll make me go back to Colorado and rot my life away with this hell now between my ears. And if I tell anybody else, they'll think I'm ruined and disgusting and dirty. And I just have to never tell anybody. But as I'm standing there, the ringleader of the two, the man walks up, literally, there's this bank of phones, like 3 feet apart, all along the wall. And I'm standing there and he walks up and puts his hand out. And, what are you doing? And I said, oh, wrong number, or some, bullshit, something. I literally just hung up the phone. And he asked me if I want to like go get a drink or some goddamn thing. Like, like we're friends or something.
Wow.
Or like some weird cat and mouse thing. And I said, yeah, well, I just need to pee or something, like all crassly like this. Just give me a minute, And I ran. It was like cobblestone street or like slippery ass. And I had these flat pink shoes on. And I ran as fast as I could back to our crappy pension. And my friend was screaming. And I literally jumped on her. She was still in bed and held my hand on her mouth. Because who knows where they were? Was he chasing me? I don't know. We grabbed whatever we could grab, left most of our crap there. Let's face it, we're teenage girls. We had so much junk with us. But I digress. And just grabbed whatever we could and hopped on a train. Never.
So she didn't wonder why your hair was cut, why you were disheveled, filthy, covered in urine?
Did she wonder? Of course she wondered. But we were at that, first of all, we were fighting already.
Okay.
So we were already giving each other the cold shoulder and the brush off. She was supposedly going to take me to dinner for my birthday, but it never materialized. That was planned a long time ago. But it's just, we were at that age where you just step over stuff.
So,
you know what I mean?
Let's fast forward. You don't tell this to anybody for years and years. And then I meet you by listening to you tell this story to a group of people that record it and put it live on TV. So you go from, or live on the internet. So you go from never telling a soul to now the whole world knows this is Cheryl Hunter's story.
Yeah. I felt like I started to become somebody I didn't like, couldn't stand. I mean, I didn't know how to cope. I didn't know how to live. Mm-hmm. I moved eventually to New York City, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to become a model anyway. And that's a way to get out of town. And I realized also, quite frankly, this is perfect, because in that business, nobody asks you to talk. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. You're not there to be a person. You're there as like the flesh mannequin. It was the perfect place for me. And, I moved to one of the places they sent me was Japan. And, it's like London, Paris, Milan, Tokyo. It's like New York. It's just all these different places they send you. But I was in, right before Japan, I'd gone to New York, and I had a bike that I rode every place. And one night, these like meth heads or crackheads or whatever were trying to steal my bike. I came out of the supermarket and they were spraying like hairspray on it. And then they whack it with a ball peen hammer or some damn thing, and it busts off. And I came out and I was like, I was so mild mannered before and so kind. I came out and I was like, can I swear? I'm like, I will crush your skulls. And I'm kind of scaring myself, but there was this elderly couple walking down the street. And
where were you again?
In New York City.
Okay.
Gristedes, a supermarket. And I was coming out of there, and these trying to steal my bike, my only friggin' transportation. And I will crush your skulls, I said to them, and I'm screaming so loud and so committedly that this elderly couple that's walking up goes, and they duck out of the way of me. And I thought, who am I becoming that the good people of this world are afraid of me? And I was like, man, I got to end this, or I gotta end this. And so luckily the next place they sent me was Japan. And it was like this miraculous occurrence happened there where It just shifted the whole way I saw everything. And, you know, I tried to, I just was alone all the time. I just read. It was just me and books, unless I was shooting something, then I would just stand there and go.
Is there always a salty face like that? It was never
always
like
that dumb bullshit, you know, from magazines. I mean, you know, smile occasionally, but like you start to smile and they're like, no, serious.
What were you reading? What did you read?
My God. I read the complete works of William Shakespeare twice.
Okay.
The complete works of Stephen King. One. But it's like anything. I would read anything. I just needed to keep something between me and people. Okay. And so I was in Japan, and whenever I wasn't on a shoot, I would hang out at my agent's office because nobody was ever there except my agent's grandparents. Okay. And they, Oba and OG, oh my God, love these people. And the greatest thing about them, they spoke perfect English, but they never talked. They would just silently sit and paint in the conference room or drink tea. And I was like, my tribe, I love you. And I was sitting there one day reading, plotting my revenge against the bastards from France. And I was kind of absent-mindedly tracing my fingers over this conference table that was in there, which was kind of a trip. It was as if they took down a massive tree and just planed it and set it down there. It was thin at one end, like the wood tree must have been, and wide at the other end, you know, just like followed the tree. And they left the eyes in, all these nicks. I mean, they sanded it. It wasn't going to cut you or anything, but it was just, it was beautiful, but just odd, like to not get rid of any of the nicks and stuff. Mm-hmm. And the grandma Oba comes up and says, oh, wabi-sabi, watching me trace my hands. And I'm like, what? Thinking it's time for lunch. And she means wasabi. And the grandma and grandpa just chuckled. And they took turns telling me about this Japanese principle called wabi-sabi. And the grandfather said it's the most important of all the Japanese principles. Wabi-sabi, he said, states that the beauty of any object lies in its flaws. And something can only be seen to be perfect or lovely or beautiful or good to the exact degree that it holds imperfections or flaws or damages. I don't know about you. I'd never heard anything like that.
Sure.
I mean, it was so blowing my mind. Could this, no. Could this mean people? Could this mean me? And I excused myself and just got the hell out of there. I just had to walk as far and fast as I could. I was trying to make sense of it. Could I be anything other than ruined now? You know, I said I have to end all this, or I'm going to have to end all this. I mean, frankly, is this how? I mean.
How old were you at that point?
Oh, 19, you know.
So this was not long after.
20, maybe, okay. You know. It's just, I mean, I still was trying to figure it out. And
it's a pretty heady topic for a young person.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty heady experience. I mean, I'm not pretending I'm alone in going through challenges. We all go through things that we could never have imagined, or certainly don't prefer, and certainly would never have chosen. Mm-hmm. But so I figured I've got to create, using wabi-sabi as a first stepping stone, I've got to create some road back. I don't like that the good people are ducking away from me, cowering, thinking I'm a bad person. I got to figure out a road back. And what I realized on that way back was that the experience of being captive to something wasn't just something I experienced because I'd been physically held captive. It's part of the human condition. We all get trapped or captive when we experience one shit show or another that we never expected. And so I thought, you know what? I'm going to crack the code on this thing for people, because I gotta figure it out. And I started interviewing. one of the things I did just to get out of my own head, because there was such a mind fuck going on, like, you should have done this, you shouldn't have done that, why did you do this, you're so bad, you're so stupid, you're so damaged, what the hell, oh yeah, wabi-sabi, no, that doesn't work, this is, all that nonsense that we get into our own heads. Mental what?
A mental circle jerk.
Precisely.
Goes
right?
to nowhere. Yeah.
Precisely. And so I started volunteering with elderly people. I mean, I kept telling my mom, I'm so depressed, and not telling her why. She's like, you mean bored? And I was like, no, not bored. God damn it, depressed. She goes, well, go help somebody. There's people who've got it worse than you. Whatever you're dealing with, just go help somebody. And I was like, who's worse than me? I'm young, no future, and head. Oh, old, no future, and head. Awesome.
Yeah,
and
right.
So I was like, again, I went into old age homes. And I was like, my people. And so no one, they were all, God love them. But, and there were, this time there were a lot of Holocaust survivors alive.
Yeah.
And so I started talking to them. It would be clear, like, there was one that did okay, and his counterpart didn't. Why did that guy be okay when, by all accounts, nobody should have recovered from that thing?
Sure.
And then I started just, talking to, family members who were veterans and friends of theirs, and interviewing people who'd gone through, real bona fide trauma. What is going on? What's worked and what's not worked? I was like, I'm going to reverse engineer this thing, not because Viktor Frankl or somebody in a book said so 1,000 years ago. I got to get my hands on this experientially. And so that was the genesis of starting the road that ultimately became coaching. I created, ultimately, I codified what other people had used, and then my own journey back, and started to teach it.
Where do you begin? So for the person that's out there, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is I came from a dissimilar but similar background as a young man. Not at all the same story, but some, in this, even for you, your story is, you wouldn't have a business if it wasn't the case, if there wasn't millions of people somehow in that same rut of life. Whatever put them there might be different, but that's part of the basis of the business I run, except we use these tools as the way to connect to people. So for you, when you have people that like in your different talks that you do, your books, you've written numerous books on topics pertaining to this, what's the starting point? Well,
I'm going to back up 1 second in order to answer that question. So here's one of the things I've seen it's now been a long time. It's like 20 years since I started this whole journey, like coaching and all of this. But what I've been able to see, oh, hell. How could it be? I'm only 20 something times 1 million. I can see that there's this, like, challenges, trauma, difficulty, adversity, whatever you want to call it. There's a spectrum. And we all fall somewhere along the line there by virtue of being human. We've all dealt with something we didn't choose. And even though the way it impacts us is unique, the way that we compensate post-challenge is the same, is what I've been able to uncover. And what the way to overcome that is the same as well, which is fortunate. So even if I'm working with people, like, let's say I started doing, started bringing the same work into companies, and I could see, like, executive coaching, whenever somebody was stopped and they're not fulfilling their potential, I was like, invariably, I'm not trying to act like a psychologist here, but I would march it backward and find out something happened, some challenge where they lost themselves. It's as though sometimes when we face a challenge that's bigger than what we know how to deal with, we splinter off. We become somebody else, or more accurately said, we become part of ourselves and kill off the part of ourselves that was so stupid or gullible or da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and we just don't go there anymore. And then we become, like my example of scaring the good people, the couple outside of Christini's Market that night, we become somebody we don't even recognize sometimes. And it's a common experience to be in life going, wait, how did I get here? Who am I? I don't even recognize myself anymore. So I'm saying all that to say that whether there's an application in our lives wanting to cause better results or in business, but I'm just going to talk about overcoming challenges. Okay. There's a few places to start, but one of them, it's kind of tough to hear, but it's your thoughts are not your friends. Remember how I was saying, like, we got all this, that mental, vomit, diarrhea, whatever you want to call it. I'm just evoking all this loveliness. But it's like just all the shitstorm that's going around in our head, but we tend to transfix on that as though it's real and as though our path to redemption is going to be found through going through the same machinations over and over again. Yeah. And somehow we've got to stop that bullshit stream and get out of it.
Right.
And get out of that and get out of the mental, that crazy monologue in our head. And so your thoughts are not your friends. There's one. And there's whether you got to find somebody that you can speak to who will just listen without adding anything, and you just literally empty the bucket. I call that exercise. So the person's not like, oh, you're okay. You're going to be all right. Don't worry about it. You're a great person. No, you don't need all that shit.
You're not okay.
Yes, sure. You just need to empty the bucket and get the shit out of your head to allow you to breathe. So your thoughts are not your friends. Get them out of your friggin' head and find somebody who will allow you to just vomit into a bucket. Okay, I'm just carrying on the
modeling thing.
Ah! Not friggin' literally. Oh my God, that was hysterical. I wasn't
walked right into that one.
Seriously. So then another one is we gotta stop the fantasy thinking, and specifically the fantastical thinking we get stuck in is, I just got to get back to like it was before. Everything will be fine. This is, I just get back to like it was before. But you faced a challenge, a trauma, a difficulty. There is no like it was before. You can't unring a bell, even if you could somehow put together whatever pieces again. And usually in this kind of thing, you can't. It'll never be like it was before. There's a you pre and post challenge or trauma. You'll never get back to like it was before. And it's harsh, but there's nothing harsher than wasting your life thinking someday it's all going to go back to like it was, and it never is.
I'm a big fan of reminding myself often of the grave that awaits me.
Oh, yep.
Not in a morbid or sick way.
No,
people hear me say
it.
that and they're like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I'm like, well, like every one of us somewhere attach a camera to us and eventually it will record you going in the ground or in a crematorium or something, or sinking in the ocean, whatever it may be. And there's no, like you said, there is no going back. Embrace.
Unless we can get present to that, though, we don't actually live. That's the messed up part, right?
It's a constant thing, I think, for us. Like myself, I live in a beautiful home in a beautiful area. I've got a beautiful family. I'm healthy. We've got a refrigerator full of food and cold air conditioning and clean water that comes out of the tap. And from time to time, I have to get out of bed and I remind myself of all the wonderful things, because you start to think about what you don't have or what you think you should have or where you I used to have a tendency of doing that self-flagellation constantly, go through a mental list of all the things I did wrong that day or that month or and then I would lose sight of the fragility of it all.
Yes.
Like I already beat myself up for that like 3 times. I'm not doing it again, or I'm not doing it again on purpose. So I'm not going to continue to abuse myself. Does that make sense?
It's just it makes sense 100%. It's one of the things that we do in my programs is we talk about we come up with this construct called this black and white world called there are 2 parts to the brain and that's it. There's either your best self, like who you are when you're at your ultimate best. And we actually distinguish what that is. And it's distinct for every person, but it's, got similar qualities. Or you're in survival, like ruled by that, mutual survival imperative that we all share. And all of that beating yourself up, all that nonsense that we do, is so vexing to us like that. Like, why am I doing that damn thing? I don't like doing that thing. I hate when I act like that. We say that that's all survival brain. And the point of it is to drive you into the cave. Like we use like lots of caveman analogies. It's just fun, right? Drive you into the cave and, hiding out from the saber-toothed tigers and all the scary shit that's outside. So we stand inside the cave and we're afraid to go out. We stand around the fire and just want to, eat comfort food or some damn thing. But it's like, that is the stuff we share. And as I started really getting behind this message of wabi-sabi, I thought, I can't not share my story anymore. I'm now coaching. I led programs, personal and professional development. I started doing it to save my own life. And then I was designing my own stuff at the same time. And I thought, this stuff is saving my life. How dare I not share that I overcame something? And as I thought about the whole message of wabi-sabi and really embracing what we think is wrong with us, like consider that that's actually what's right with us. Because if nothing else, it unifies us to other people, just like talking down to ourselves, those things that we all share. And I thought, I gotta talk about this. And as soon as I started sharing my story, not like trauma sharing, not some other BS like that, but authentically shared that this thing had happened that I thought made me horrible. And people started coming from everywhere saying, oh my God, I feel the same way. Just like when you right there, Mickey, share the story about, I talked down to myself and how many times are you going to that thing and how many times are you going to, my God, who can't relate to that, right?
Sure.
We see how human we are. And I really try to create something that's we all experience, no matter how, by virtue of being human, no matter how we uniquely are dealing with something.
How many of your clients, percentage-wise, are men versus female?
It's probably over the years been something like 60% men. 60% women, 40% men.
Okay, so a pretty good number of men.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it's more women. Lately, it's more women. But then I just also started recently saying, I got to coach myself. It's like, would you friggin' specialize? And I was like, okay, women.
Okay.
But it's historically been not an equal split, but 40%.
One of the things we find, like, I could probably do a lot more business if I act a lot more like my peers in this business. Like, it's not cool to talk about or self-flagellating or laying in bed and realizing that you're not perfect or any of those things. Most of my peers they focus on like, I'm the best, I'm a success, and that's what they fixate on. And that attracts a certain client. And so most of the people that visit us and work with us are a little more aware of the need to, I say self-audit. Like, that's one of the things we talk about. Like, and it could be something you're talking about. It could be being a dad or a mom or a coach or a shooter or a runner, whatever. Yeah. Like, you can use the same skills, but what was the point I was trying to make? The point is that, like, the men I feel have a harder time with these types of discussions. So I didn't know, like, you being a woman, how the guys coming to you, if they would at all, because for us, a lot of the men that we see, it's a very small slice of society, because most of them, I'm very upfront about this stuff. Like, when we begin a course or a class, this is what we're doing. These are the things we're going to be talking about. If you don't like it, sorry. Like, we're going to be talking about, I'm going to hug you, I'm going to touch you. So the guys are like, what? And we'd laugh. That's like, it's not just about this macho, egotistical bullshit, because that doesn't really make you a better person or solve anything.
You know, I think when we're totally true to ourselves in whatever context, though, the people who are right, you know, our real tribe, it's just, they line up with us. We get on the same, you know, the same side of things, and repel the people who aren't a fit. It's like, I never found that the men who came to me had any, you know, thing about it. I mean, you know, sometimes when, you know, like I said, I was mostly in corporations there for a while, and now I've gone, I'm more interested with individuals and not traveling all the time. But, you know, once in a while I'd interview. Well, yeah, and I found a way recently to distill what I used to do one-on-one, you know, take us 6 months to a year, and we were super effective, causing crazy results with people, like unprecedented results. But I found a way to shortcut it down so it's 8 weeks. Who wants to spend a year? For Pete's sakes, I don't even want to spend a year.
Sure.
You know, so we're doing it virtually also because I didn't want to travel anymore.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I found a way to deliver it in a way that works for everybody. Somebody called in on last week's call, and she's like, yes, everybody, I'm in my pajamas, in bed. Well, wow, what's better than that?
Yeah, it works. Right? I sidetracked a point you were about to make. I don't remember.
Well, I was going to say, like, sometimes I go into corporations and like I'd interview with some men, and they'd be like, "Man, not a fit." But then same thing with women. It's like, yeah, we're not any of us everybody's cup of tea. Isn't that great? If we can start like marching to the beat of our own drummer, as you know, they say, then those that are were meant to fall in step with, that'll happen, and not.
I have a friend of mine that always lets me know when somebody tells him on social media that they don't like me. And I'm always like, you know, I don't want to say his name, but I'm always like, thanks, dude. Like, I'm okay with it. I go, apparently you're not okay with it because you're my friend. So you don't like hearing people telling you that they don't like me. That's like my interpretation of that. So you're saying, hey, this so-and-so says that you're an arrogant prick. Well, I'm not. He just doesn't pay attention to what I'm saying. But if he perceives me that way, I'm okay with it because that guy's probably a douchebag. And my friend's like, well, you should say, I ain't going to say anything. Like, I don't need to go out of my way to make this guy feel better. But I don't know why I went down that thread. I'm just thinking about, like, for our listeners, one of the common things, like, I wanted to dovetail into what you're talking about. So I have a family member and myself both suffered from debilitating anxiety as young men. And he dealt with it one way, I dealt with it another. And it worked out well for one of us, not the other. And so, like, we still talk about it. We're both over it now. Like, I don't really have any type of not anxiety like I did as a young man. Like, I'm talking panic attacks 5-10 times a day sometimes, but I refuse to ever take like any medication or anything like that. Of course, like at the time, I think I talked to one doctor about it one time, and they're like, you know, here's some Wellbutrin or whatever and some benzodiazepam, just suck on these when it happens. And I'm like, well, that's not going to fix anything. And then I'm going to like want to eat these things, and I'll get like anxiety if I don't have them available to me. Right. So I never did. But like my way of dealing with it became to just like anything that caused me anxiety to just do the thing. And then it became to like do it times 10. And like I used to get freaked out speaking in front of 5 people. And then it became like I can deal with 5. Now if it's like 50, I get all like nervous and want to pee my pants. And like one time I had to talk to like 800 or 1,000 people. And I tell this story in classes often. And I am about to walk up. All I got to do is introduce somebody to a crowd of people and make a few wisecracks, and I'm done. In a nice suit, I'm having a glass of champagne or whatever, and talking with friends at this event. And then I knew when the person that was on stage, I knew I was up next. And all of a sudden, it was like, oh shit, I got to go up there in a minute. my throat gets all dry, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom and check my hair and make sure I don't got anything in my teeth. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror. This is only like 8 or 10 years ago, and I tell myself in the mirror, you can just, you're an adult. These people can't make you go up there. And like, I'm having this dialogue, like, just leave. And for a minute, like, total relief washed over me. Like, yeah, dude, jump in your truck. You'll be listening to some tunes down the road, and you can just call somebody on the phone or text somebody and tell them and then I thought to myself, you'll know as soon as you get home, you're going to crack a beer and you're going to be so disgusted that you were a puss about it and left. And so I went and did it, and it was fine, and I was still totally nervous, but when I came off the stage, and it was stupid, I was like, a couple wisecracked, introduced, and then our friend Cheryl Hunter's about to speak, blah, 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 and walked off. But to me, it was like I climbed to the top of Mount Everest or something like that. So a friend of mine walks up and like, good job, because it was not a big deal. And I said, dude, like, my heart's still racing, and I'm like drenched in sweat under my wool suit coat. And I go, I was so nervous. Like, how stupid did I sound? He goes, he goes, what do you mean? You were nervous? Yeah, I didn't hear a thing. I'm like, all right, well, I'm a really good actor, because I was like eyes bulging out and all that. But that day, this was the moral of my short story here. Like, then I learned, all right, whatever it is. Like, to me, you said it a minute ago, like, depending on, I didn't have the same experience you did. I had another type of violence happen to me often as a child. Was that impetus to all that anxiety, but then it manifested itself in all kinds of crummy ways as an adult. But the tools to overcome whatever the challenge is, this is what I kind of heard you say, it's the same. It's the same thing, and how we react to it. Like, it might be something as lame as a person afraid to talk in front of people, or you're telling your story and working through it. It's the same stuff, right?
Yeah, how our post-challenge world manifests for each of us is very
post-challenge. So this is a Hunter Group trademarked term, post-challenge. After the thing that you're trying to overcome.
There's like I said, we all experience some challenges in life, and they, like I said, splinter us off in a way. It's as though we kill off part of ourselves or become different or try to compensate for making sure that never happens again or something. We become different, but not for the better in general. Now, there's some good and some bad that'll come out of it, both, but there's this post-challenge world. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Like you said there was whatever gave you anxiety, and there was pre whatever that was, and then the post.
There was no pre for me.
Oh, got it. So like your entire life.
Yeah, for me it was like as long as. Say again, please.
I said, are you being a smartass or are you serious?
No, not at all. I can't remember a time. I was just raised in a very physically violent environment, so it was and like this, sharing this, for me, I don't talk about it not because it's injurious to me. Like, it doesn't bother me. I could sit and tell you a million horrible stories, but my family's still alive. So like, when I talk about this, people hear things like, oh man, like, who's he talking about? So like, that's a touchy subject for me, where I don't want to cause injury to somebody else that maybe deserves it, but that's not the right thing to do. But anyway, so there was no pre for me.
So, okay. Well,
which brought me a whole nother set of challenges, because my young brain, as my siblings as well, is the adolescent development years and all that, it was all wired with a bunch of badness mixed in with it. So that took a lot of changing that internal dialogue, that voice that you're talking about. I made him my friend, though.
How'd you do that?
By daily controlling what he says, or she, depending on how I feel that day.
Yeah.
That last part was a joke.
And how do you control it? Just by bringing awareness to it initially?
By
or you fight back?
Definitely being aware. I mean, none of this stuff is new. I set goals. Here's a good one. So I didn't feel very good about myself as a young man. So I tell myself, I had a physical job for years. I'm a 5th generation carpenter. So I would do things like, maybe I had a task where I had to move a pile of lumber, and that was like 4 hours of just manual labor. So you're not talking with anybody, you're not really doing anything. So I would start basically chanting or meditating to myself, and I'd pick up a load of wood and I'd say, I am a man that moves mountains with my words and with my actions. And I tell this to certain people in their face, kind of like, what the fuck is he talking about? And I might say that 800 times, 1,000 times in a day, or I am a man of character, honor, and integrity. Because I was told that you're a bad boy, you're things like that. So even though if somebody was to say to me, like, you think you're a good person? Yeah, I'm a great person. I didn't, by the way that my life manifested itself. So I began to like say those things until, like, for example, I've got a wall of letters that people send to us, and some of them are like people that it's the same story, and they just say, hey, I appreciate that you probably don't know that I listened to you or a podcast you did with Cheryl, and it frickin' changed my world. And then I see that and I think, I moved a world with my words, with my actions, or maybe not my words, but yours, because we chose. And so then there's the manifestation of speaking it and making it real. And I'm not trying to get like all mystical and stuff. It's a law of nature as far as I'm concerned. That voice that tells you you're a shithead, your life is shit. You change that voice to being something else, and you become something else. But you kind of have to apply a lot of action to it. It can't just be some willy-nilly thing.
Yeah, it's a huge task to accomplish that, because what's hardwired in, I mean, none of this is the truth. I mean, I love to say this to, my clients and students, whatever, but, it's not the truth that there is this, quote, survival brain that's out there to kick you in the nuts every time you try to go do something good. But I like to, it sure is a construct that is effective to imagine.
Think what I'm hearing is you're saying it's like our survival brain, how we decide we survive to get to the next day.
Well,
like
we don't decide it, though. It's like it happens. The survival brain as I'm distinguishing it. Remember, I'm saying there's just two parts.
I want to understand, but
not true.
When I say we decided, what I'm hearing is like how we have chose to program ourselves through our thoughts, through our actions. So then that survival mode that you're saying is like how the course of events that brought you whatever point you're at that defined moment, that is the sum total of all the stuff you pumped in. That's your survival.
I'm saying it's very, very distinct from that. So that it's the survival brain, and I know there's not two parts of the brain. I'm talking about the amygdala, the pons, medulla oblongata, all that primitive part of the brain, the lizard brain. The part that even when we're a human being's in a coma, it'll keep them alive because it's got one job: keep this organism alive, and then ensure the continuation of the species as a whole. It doesn't give a good goddamn about your wishes and your dreams and your hopes. It doesn't care about the quality of your life. It doesn't give a crap if you're happy. As a matter of fact, the survival brain doesn't want you to be happy because happy people go outside of the cave. What the survival brain does is it happens, all the stuff the survival brain governs happens underneath the level of conscious awareness. So unwittingly, we throw grenades in our path. Boom, boom. We sabotage, we undermine, and we can't figure out why. We can't figure out why. Like, why do I keep getting in my own way? We'll say something like, it's January 1st. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to, no more beer for me. And it's like we get home and we're like, right? It's like tomorrow. Why do I do that? It's so vexing for us. We can't figure it out. And consider that there's this survival brain that trumps all. And it governs, the survival brain governs fight, flight, or freeze. And just like that, just like it governs our respiration and circulation and metabolism, all that stuff, we don't need to give that shit a thought. That happens below the level of our awareness. But it governs all those things that drive us back into the cave underneath the level of our awareness as well. And a lot of that is that nasty, self-incriminating, self-flagellating internal dialogue you're talking about.
So where I think my understanding came from is that dialogue comes from somewhere, though, in my opinion. Like somebody at some point had to program that in.
Very good. I see what you're saying. Well, it all fits. It's got one imperative, keep you alive. And it decides that the way it's going to do that is put your ass back in the cave by hook or by crook. And nothing works better than if you hate yourself. Nothing works better than if you beat yourself up. So if somebody says something bad, I'm going to hang on to that. Yeah, they told me I'm stupid. Every time I start to feel something, I'm going to remind myself how stupid I am. Mm-hmm. And, like that. I'm a bad boy. And we just keep adding all that to we're not doing it consciously. We're not bad people. We're not, ill-intended. We're just trying to do the best we can. And we keep getting taken out of the game by our survival brain. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing that you unwired that yourself. That's what I dedicate 8 weeks to doing with people, to get them out of their own way. Because, let's face it, once we're out of our own way, we're brilliant. We can accomplish things.
Yeah.
Right? We really can accomplish the things we set our mind to. Once we get the hell out of our own way, and first we got to start by realizing that what's stopping us is unfortunately us a lot of the times.
I was very fortunate as a young man. Like my father, he was a minister, and all the good and the bad, like some of the stuff that was good, I didn't appreciate until I was in my 20s, maybe. Like my father would listen to W. Clement Stone or Napoleon Hill or Dale Carnegie or any of those guys. You'd hear him like playing in the other room on like a cassette tape, or maybe in the car, he'd listen to that. And you'd hear that stuff. Like I remember one time I'm in the car with him, I was probably 10, big long station wagon. We're driving in with the wood sides, and Napoleon Hill's talking. For those of you that don't know who Napoleon Hill is, you can look him up. But he's talking about like this thing, you're going to get rich. You're going to get rich. And as a kid, I'm like, well, what? Like, Dad shuts the tape off when we get to the destination, and I'm like, he never said what it was. Like I didn't know. Like, are you going to sell golf clubs? Do you have to like go gold mining? Do you become a football player? Like, how do you get rich? And my dad's like, that's not what he's talking about. And I didn't get it. But years later, having some of that stuff instilled in me, even though like Napoleon's whole thing is using your brain to control the outcome of your destiny, that stuff was there lying dormant inside of me. It just needed to connect some pieces together and wire some broken circuits back together. But it's interesting what you just said about I'm going to go back in the cave, that self-sabotage. I've never thought about that analogy, and it's frustrating to me when I watch people like, this is just easier. You don't get it. Yeah, you take all your like self-help bullshit, shove it up your ass. I'm going to go continue to do this thing that's keeping me in my cave. That's a good analogy. And since I found out that
by default how we're set up. Sorry to interrupt. Say, what was the last thing you said?
I just said, since I realized that it wasn't a trademarked logo or anything of the Hunter Group, I'm going to take it.
TM. I worked many years ago for a management consulting and coaching company that used to put TM after everything. They'd go, your characteristics, TM. I was like, that's a friggin' word in the dictionary. You can't TM everything like that. Come on. I was like, oh, you made me in a bad mood, TM. You are crazy, TM.
They just thought everything was theirs, huh?
Like, just normal words that we all use.
That's funny. There's a lot of people like in your business, like I'll just broadly say like consulting, like businesses, or my business, the training business, that like they come up with the dumbest. Yours so far, I haven't heard a dumb one. Like there's a lot of guys in my business that come up with like 5 or 6 letter acronyms to mean like this most simple thing, but they want it to sound like super intelligent and complex. I don't want to say one because people will hear it and be like, oh, so-and-so.
master's talking about me.
Yeah. I've got some like old marketing sales books from guys. Again, I don't want to say any authors, but like you read this stuff and it's like, what the man? Like you trying to make this sound like so hard. Anyway. Yeah. So it's
now you said that, I have to tell you, my program's called Break Free Formula, and I'm like, oh shit. FREE is an acronym. Stands for find, rewire, envision, execute.
Nothing wrong with acronyms. It's when somebody takes something like that is simple and they make it complicated because then it makes them sound important. And
I totally get what you're saying. I was like, oh shit, I have an acronym in my program.
You've got several books that I was looking at. Use It and How to Get Unstuck.
Yeah, How to Get Unstuck. Those are the two primary ones. Yeah.
Okay. So what's Use It about?
Use It is about it's twofold. It's the first part is my story, so it gives some context for the book to occur inside of. But it's the overview of the coaching methodology that I created, and how do you more importantly use the challenges that you've gone through to catapult yourself forward. Mm-hmm. As opposed to trying to get back to like it was, right?
So learning to kind of embrace what was, move.
It's hard to, you don't automatically get to embrace what was if you're dealt with, here, says the universe, is a steaming pile of shit. Enjoy. It's like, how do I embrace that? There's a few steps in the way.
I wasn't suggesting that was the whole book.
Well, but that's the thing, though. Ultimately, in order to use it, you can't hate what you've experienced and expect to mine any gold from it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I would never have chosen what happened, but in retrospect, it's allowed me to become somebody I dreamt of becoming when I was a kid, sitting home in Rye, Colorado, wishing to get out and, meet people, know people, mm-hmm. make some mark, make some difference, help people in some way. And I had no idea. All I knew how to do was break a horse from scratch. The secret, don't break them.
Do you still ride?
Friends. Oh yeah, hell yeah. But it's like, I didn't know what to teach anybody, what to give away, how to connect. And it's
almost like a struggling artist that can't get their art out.
Well, I didn't know. I had nothing. I was a child in Colorado. I didn't really have any way to have the life I dreamt of. And through this crazy ass turn of events.
Do you now?
I do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you change any of it? I don't mean like the bad shit. But
even the bad shit though, Mickey, I wouldn't change that.
Now you wouldn't, because you've learned to embrace it.
Well, I've learned to embrace it, but it made me a person that I love. And I know how, I feel like I want to qualify that immediately, because it's like we live in this society where we look at people like you're talking about, the guys tooting their own horn. I think you kind of looked at a little bit of a douche if you love who you are. But I'm talking about,
I love myself.
No!
You've talked about puking in garbage cans.
Giving, I think the thing that we all deeply long for is the ability to truly, authentically love ourselves. I mean, there was a time when I hated myself.
I can agree. Not that, I can appreciate that for sure.
Afterward, it was like, God, you're so stupid. I was in hell. And to get to the other line aside, like in one sense, like, who cares that I did? But now what I'm demonstrating is that it's possible. Mm-hmm. If one person does something, any of us can do it. Who gives a shit if I'm happy with myself and love myself? It's like, what does that make possible for people?
It matters to me if you are, because you're full of shit if you're not.
But the point of it is, Mickey, I would go through it again because, not that I want friggin' to, but I don't hate what happened, because now I can contribute to people. And now it just...
It forged who you are.
Yes.
Yes. I gotcha.
It doesn't define me. I define me, but I choose to say that was good. Why? Because I can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
And if I make it wrong and hate it forever, I will lose power and potency in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And the second that we say, all right, fine, it is what it is, it happened, I'm going to just embrace that sucker. Somehow, some way, as hideous as it is what it is, and it's here. Am I going to fight it forever and then I die? Or will I embrace it as part of me and I live and get to give life to those around me?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I dig
Hell, that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, like, and not to take anything away from you, because that's not what I'm about to say, but it's like any sage. So now I'm paying you respect, but anybody that's come to the conclusions you've come to, like from like 18th century mystics to Napoleon Hill or Tony Robbins, all of these people, or as far back as the Greeks, it's Hill's talked about every adversity carries with it the seed or of an equivalent or greater benefit. Like as a kid, that's a lot of really big words. I don't, even as an adult, it's like find the good and use the bad thing to propel yourself forward. But you write that into your script and then connect it, like you said earlier, the people that catch your wave and can understand where you're coming from, you communicate that how you communicate, and it means something to those people. He'll talk to people in a certain way. Tony Robbins, not my kind of speaker, but I have friends and students that have gone to see him. Like, it's kind of like the church I grew up in. He might be your best friend for all I know, so I'm not attacking.
Never met the dude.
I think he's great, but like that type of communication is like, that connects with certain people. To me, it's like, quit yelling and turn the lights back on. But it's very profound to me how different people, like your cave analogy, these different ways that it's all the same laws of nature, but we define them in our own ways and then communicate them in our own ways. So thank you for not being scared to do that. That's cool.
Thank you. I mean, it's, we very much like you'd said, how your own internal dialogue gave you a particular quality of life. Our conversations, whether it's internal ones that we're having with ourselves or conversations that we have out loud, give a particular quality of life. And if you do what you do and then share those conversations, it can give others a particular quality of life. And I'm privileged to have the opportunity to have that conversation with you and have you, have conversations that matter.
That is kind of it for me. So my relative and I that I was talking about earlier, we agreed that, and this is a decade plus ago, like we wanted to somehow affect people similar to what you said in a profound, meaningful way, but like with the caveat that it wasn't for like fame or glory or nothing wrong with those things. Like if somebody gets famous or is given glory or makes a ton of money, those are all wonderful things and there's not anything wrong with them. But I did not want to chase it for that reason. It was like I want, if there's some dude like me that didn't sleep as a child because he was terrified like every night of the week, like that fucking sucks. So like perhaps we can fix that. And so we decided like the only thing we could do is just like let it all hang out. So this family member of mine, like he does it in his own way and he does like crazy amazing things that catch people's attention, and then like his conversations are usually like two dudes sitting on a tailgate sipping a beer, and that's how he passes on the stuff that he learned. And this is how I do it this way, or like on the gun range or whatever. But it's just a matter for me of just like, just do it, man. Just do it. Like, and then I said earlier, like, you're going to die anyway. So just do it. So some dude's going to make fun of me and call me lame or whatever. Like, cool. Like that guy's probably sucking his thumb right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm okay with that. So like, that was my epiphany. Like, just do it. Like, what's like, if you just tell people, like, if you only got like 2 minutes with somebody, like, what's your thing?
It is.
And you can't say the same thing. Yeah. You can't say the same thing either. It has to be totally different.
Oh, well, no, I was going to say that I was going to encapsulate the shit that we've been talking about for the past hour. Okay. Damn it, man. No, it's that your past doesn't define who you are. You define who you are. And just because something's gone one way in the past, you can chart your future, period.
That is super profound. What about when the person goes, but you don't understand? But Cheryl,
Well, what's asking that? The best self or the survival brain?
I'm writing down what you just wrote.
Does whatever is asking those shitty questions force you into the cave or out of the cave?
I like that cave analogy a lot.
Right? It's freaking great. We like milk it like crazy in these programs.
I mean, like, that is a great way to just, like, I'm always asking people, like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Mm-hmm. So like, now I would, like, after talking to you, I'd be like, I want to go out of the cave. I don't want to be in the cave.
Yes,
like, that's like a perfect way. Like, so is what you're thinking or doing, is it like taking you to the door, or are you digging a trench under your bed to hide even more? Like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming most people are not conversing with you about these things if they're already, like, not at some level of enlightenment where they've decided and figured out some stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, people voluntarily come to me. I mean, occasionally somebody's boss will say, hey, why don't you talk to so-and-so? But it never, really works out anyway, because I can't want somebody to change their life more than they want them to change their life.
That's a good way to look at it.
So, it's like you'd ask, like, how do we get over things? One of the ways is we got to really make it our job. And it's so easy. The survival brain wants us to make our well-being and satisfaction and happiness and all of that somebody else's job. God dang it. You're not making me happy.
That's something that drives me nuts when I hear somebody say, I'm involved in politics. So when I hear people say, like, well, I can't do that because like the government or the police.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Like, shut the up, dude.
Yeah.
All you did was just tell me that you're a bum and don't want to do anything for yourself.
So it's like we have this whole thing, which we would talk about, seize ownership. Like, where can you, even when you think somebody else should be accountable, you got to be accountable. You got to be your own cavalry and advocate and the whole damn thing.
That was trademarked.
Damn it. TM.
That one is trademarked. But it's, so that to me is, like, at my personal opinion, probably the biggest problem our society faces today is that people don't. Somebody
else is accountable.
Yeah, or like, I don't want to be, or just not being able. This is my opinion. I don't know if it's true or not, but it's just, it is so easy to see people make excuses, and they don't even know they're making excuses because it's so easy to blame the weather, their mother, the government, the tax man, who, my wife, whatever. It's just constant putting off the responsibility of their own life on other people.
But remember, the survival brain operates underneath the level of conscious awareness. So it's not that we're even bad people or ill-intended. It's that we don't friggin' know any better.
So,
it should be, it's like, by default, think of all the nonsense that comes into your head by default. It's a common by default thing that it's like, my spouse, my family, my country, somebody else should be making me happy. God damn it.
See, to me, that what I think this is where maybe you and I may have either a different opinion or a different interpretation. To me, all of that is learned.
Oh, see, well,
see, like for example, my dinosaur part of my brain didn't know anything about government or taxes or like that is all data some way, some shape or form had to come in through my ears or like the smell of lilacs make me instantly think of my mother. If I lived somewhere where there were no lilacs, I wouldn't know what lilacs smelled like. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that data had to come in.
Saying something similar, I think it's at least symbiotic. So here's what I'm saying. There's this proclivity set up, which is I'm going to survive, get back in the cave where it's safe. Okay. Like just a massive oversimplification. And then if we're gathering evidence for something, we always find it. Whatever we're gathering evidence for. You can be gathering evidence. If the survival brain's gathering evidence, it's like, how do I use these things that are occurring to my end, to serve my needs? So it's like, oh, that. Oh, you're bad. Oh, the government should be doing this or that. I'm going to just take that. And it puts it all over there to use at you. I'm not saying the survival brain's not gathering evidence. I'm saying by default it is. You're
saying that part of the brain is just pulling from the hard drive, whatever that is.
Yes. I mean, what infrastructure do you think this survival brain has to run on? Your own thought, your own brain, your own neural pathways, your own thinking brain.
So what I say to that is like the needs. You need to consciously change that need. That's like how I interpret that. Like, I don't need to be in the cave. I don't need to drink myself to sleep. I don't need to blame other people. I want that. So I'm going to go get that.
Yes. And I would say it as there's life outside of our default programming. We're saying the same thing. And, and the default programming is all that.
Like all the acronyms. No, it's just I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. I barely graduated from 8th grade, so forgive me. There's a lot of like words and stuff that I get angry about because I don't even know what they mean.
Oh, see, I got a mom who's a university professor with advanced English degrees. He's smart. And well, my mother's just always like, use the right word. Okay.
I like good words. When I listen to like books on tape, oftentimes like, let's see if you know, like here's one right here. Like I was just listening to a book, and so I'll write down words that I like, and like corporeality. That was one of them that I was listening to. I'm like, I don't know what the word means.
Oh, we're related to the body, corporal, right?
There you go. I don't even know what that one means. Or
that's as close as I could get. Or what's the other one?
Truculent was another good one.
Okay.
What was another one?
Tremulous. Oh, hell, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, see, I was listening to this and I'm like writing them down.
No idea.
I went in the dictionary later and was looking up a bunch of them. But anyway, so I do like words. I was kind of just being a dick. But anyway.
So you mean the guy online is right?
No, I mean, I think
I'm kidding.
I know, but I would like to add something just because people I do come off very cutting and dry sometimes. Like if you were to call me or if I was to call you to like buy something and I realized you didn't have what I needed, I would just say, thank you for your time. Have a good day. But many people will continue to like talk to the person and have like, you no longer have what I need. Have a good day. I'm not going to waste your time and I don't need you to waste mine. And I'll just say, thank you, goodbye. So people will say, like, we just hung up on them. I did not. I called to buy widgets and they don't sell widgets. So good, like, what the are we going to talk about? And
well, isn't it more polite to waste more of both of your time? Just kidding.
I don't.
Yes.
When it comes to communicating, it's like even in emails, if I can say it in 2 sentences, I want to say it in 2 sentences. I don't want to take 13.
Very good.
Yeah, that annoys the shit out of me. So I think people sometimes misinterpret my brevity for arrogance or whatever dickiness. So I apologize if I sound.
No, just personally, I prefer that as well.
It's annoying to me. It's almost, I feel it's actually disrespectful. Like, do you think I'm that stupid that I can't realize that you're just talking in circles because you don't have anything important to say to me? Adios.
Yeah.
You're a dick. That's where it comes from. Anyway.
It's funny. I've got an old friend that we have that conversation a lot. She likes to say, preamble in and preamble out. Now, I know I've done a lot of talking in our conversation today, but I'm just like, I like to, not waste people's time. I feel is the more polite, reverential, truly way to speak to people, not dick around making them wait there for something that's already done.
So when you're doing like a interview on a news network, because I know you do a lot of... Do
I use the phrase dick around?
Dick around or circle jerk or any of this other shit that I've heard you say that is now recorded?
I didn't say that. You said that.
You're right. I said it, but I put it...
Whoopsie. Sorry, I totally interrupted you. What do I do on news?
I mean, do you use this kind of language? Like, I don't think.
God, no, that's not allowed.
I don't think I heard you use any vulgarities in any of the online talks that I heard you give.
I'm trying to think.
I
have a couple swear words on my own website
with your clients?
Yes, if it makes a point. I'm not trying to offend. I mean, but it's like. I'm all about being authentic. How do you be authentic? What's that?
There's a time and a place, right?
Yes. And if it's going to get somebody to hear something.
And it feels good to swear sometimes.
It just does. I don't know. It just does.
I had somebody on our YouTube channel like a week ago. The guy went on like 20 videos and he wrote, he copy and pasted the same paragraph talking about how I was like a vulgar, vile, uneducated, what did he call it? Go back under your troll bridge. And then he like started quoting scripture to me and it was like, all right.
Okay.
Delete. And I was just laughing though, but occasionally I'll get people that do that. Like I listened until I heard you use vulgarity. It indicates you have no sense of tact and like.
That's tough. Boy, imagine how bad that person is hurting and like what's going on inside that they would spend their precious life and the one thing we could never get back, time.
I never thought about that.
Leaving 20 comments.
Mm-hmm.
How little do you esteem your own life? Golly.
Yeah. Like we both used GD today, and I guess maybe I shouldn't say that because it does offend certain people. But a guy told me like I was going to hell for saying that, and I'm like, okay, dude, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Now I've just lost some subscribers here.
I mean, let's just bring it all back to where we started from, which is if we just follow our own North Star, the people that are our tribe will fall in line with them, and the people that aren't, we will be repellent to. That's for everybody in all contexts, right?
That was one of my big problems was trying to be everything to everybody as a young man.
Yeah.
Like, you got to like me, he's got to like me, she's got to like me.
People don't like me.
Yeah. And I thought like that was how you were supposed to be. And then I don't know if it was like but accept, because I didn't accept me. So your North Star statement, like we have to have a North Star or recognize it to even go down that road.
Yeah.
You told that to the 25-year-old me, I'd be like, yeah, I get it.
And we can't get there when we hate ourselves and hate the circumstances that we've gone through.
That is
we follow our own North Star when we can find some way to love something at least about ourselves.
That was a statement. I've actually wrote a lot about that the last couple of years, that love yourself. Like I never understood what that meant at all. Like I've actually found it to be like a very obnoxious thing when I'd hear people say that. Like, what mean? Like are they talking about like touching yourself? Like what are they saying? Because it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense to me. And it wasn't because like, oh, I'm so broken, I don't love myself. It's just I just was too immature as a person to like fully appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with a friend this morning about being selfish. And I said, I've become like the most selfish person that I know. And I don't say this to be cute, but I explain it to him as, because he's spread so thin, like I tried to be everything to everybody. I tried to never tell anybody no. And like, I gave no shit about myself whatsoever, but now it's like, no, I'm going to bed. Yeah, I'm going to have one more beer. I don't care if you have a problem with that. Yeah, I'm going to say the word because I like to. Like, and it's like about me because now I can be happy and be the yet best version of myself and utilize my time. But like, I never understood any of that. So I just wanted to make sure people understood when you said love yourself, because most of the people on here are not women that are in touch with all of those kinds of things. You got a bunch of young men listening right now. Right.
Your interpretation was pretty funny though.
Which?
When people said love yourself.
Oh. But you know, I mean, you just like, well, for you, not no offense, but for a female, like what you guys are always more mature, especially as younger people than men when it comes to all that kind of stuff. Like young dudes, they don't for the most part. And I feel like I was actually a pretty emotionally intelligent man, young man, but none of that shit for most guys. You know, like beer, meat, truck tires, guns. There's some dudes on here that are like hipsters that have no idea what I just said other than beer. But anyway. So any parting words? How do people find you, for one? So definitely if you just Google your name.
Cheryl Hunter, and it's Cheryl with a C, Cheryl Hunter.
And we'll put that on the screen here.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So that's it? But I mean, like what's your web address?
Yeah, CherylHunter.com.
CherylHunter.com. Mm-hmm. And you've done a couple TED Talks?
Yeah, I've actually done 5.
Awesome.
But only 2. No, I think only 1 is online now.
Is that like a TED Talk record?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one was TED Women, one was TED Change, one was TEDx Santa Monica.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Just
okay, so I've only heard the one.
Yeah, there's only one online right now. I think
I've read that you've done more than one, though.
Yeah.
Maybe that's on one of your websites or something.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Well, so I appreciate that we made this happen. I know you're super busy and probably normally get paid to do these kinds of things, and I didn't pay you, so that's cool. Send an email, and you guys set it up. Toot sweet, which was very cool, and I appreciate it. Maybe if there's a good response, which I'm sure there'll be, because it's my cast, and it always does well. That was another joke. That was a joke. She just like looked like, all right, enough. Maybe we can do something again. We should get you on the range. That's what we should do.
Yes.
Get you out on the gun range. Where are you at in California? You said LA?
LA, yeah.
So we do a class in Azusa, which is
I know the name.
Hour and a half east up into the mountains a little bit.
Okay.
And then down by Temecula, we do a couple classes.
Okay. There's like wine country down there, so people
gorgeous
can shoot. No,
yeah, not simultaneously.
Separate.
At least by a couple hours. Yeah, actually, restaurant spots down there, but we do come that region. I just spoke to him. I've got a brother in Los Angeles that I don't think that you've met. So
no,
definitely he's a physical trainer. Went out there for the movie business after going to film school here in Chicago, and I think he just got turned off by it and went another route. So we do have ties out there. So
you have to hit me up when you're in town.
Yeah. Our class schedule's online, so the next time we set up a California class, we'll see if we can get you out on the range. So on a high note, because you just yawned, as soon as somebody yawns, if you're
I did not.
If you're on the range, I saw a yawn. If you're on the range with me, I make you do jumping jacks or push-ups. It's 25, your choice.
Oh God, I have to learn to do push-ups. Note to self.
You can't do push-ups.
Barely.
Okay.
That's terrible.
Well,
oh no.
I'll leave that one to you.
Now I have to actually find your brother.
Yeah, he works. I don't know. He works at a gym down there somewhere. I appreciate it. It means a lot that you took the time out of your busy schedule. All the jokes and kidding aside, that's one of my mechanisms, is the humor. So I don't have any fancy catchphrases to decipher or describe it. So that's just what it is.
It's so good to speak with you.
What's that?
I said, it is so good to speak with you and connect. It's totally different than any conversation like this that I've ever had, any interview. I really like it.
I think it's powerful stuff. I think that there is a lot of people that will listen to this that will actually find, if anything, something that might get them start moving in the right direction, that's powerful to me. So it's a good use of my time, and I hope it is of yours. Absolutely. That's what it's all about, really, right? Indeed. Guys, look her up, Cheryl Hunter, CherylHunter.com, and please forward this on to your friends and loved ones, because I think this is a good one. We're not just talking about guns and stupid stuff that matters. Be well. Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.